Hey everyone, this is Enoch Living Well, and today in this video we're going to be looking at what does Jesus, whale harpoons, and market research have in common. What can we learn from whale harpoons? You might be like, Enoch, what are whale harpoons? It's the kind of spear that you use. It's like a spear gun for hunting whales. And I'm not an advocate of hunting whales, never done that, never plan on it, and I'm pretty sure that's illegal in most countries. But we are going to be seeing what are the lessons that we can observe that you can immediately apply in your business to create more sales online so that you can have customers who are lined up out the door around the corner with cash in hand who are eager to pay you whatever price that you charge for your products and services, your offers online. If that sounds of interest to you, then keep listening because we're going to be going into that. But first, what I want to share about one of the reasons why, one of the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs make in making sales online is that they don't understand who they're serving to, who they are serving, who are they selling to. It's amazing to me how many entrepreneurs want to start with what they want to teach, what they want to sell, the problem they want to solve. But like, that would be great. It would be absolutely wonderful if you want to start with what you're passionate about. If you are the person that you're selling to. But unless you don't plan on selling to yourself, it is your passion is not the best place to begin. It's some terrible advice where people say, do whatever you're passionate about and the money will follow. Now, I'm not saying don't do things that you enjoy, but that's not your first base. That's not where you want to start. Instead of starting with what problem are you passionate about solving, especially if you are an author, if you're a coach, if you're a speaker, in the subject that you cover, rather than starting with the subject you want to cover, find what the marketplace is passionate about paying you for. Because they're ultimately the ones who are going to exchange their dollars for your value, your solution, what you have. And in order to do that, we have to get understanding and know and appreciate who you're serving. I was speaking with a student of mine yesterday as we were doing an implementation workshop where we help people to craft your irresistible offer, and we have a workshop for crafting a signature speech and for some of our high-paying clients. And in this workshop, I was speaking to someone, and this individual has created a course, and he's gone through and he created an entire course teaching people how to grow a business, teaching entrepreneurs how to grow a business. And by the end of the course, he's 7 weeks into this training course and recording, but he's creating this with little to no idea of who he's actually speaking to. And the problem with this is that when you are not clear on who is a very essential question to answer. Who comes before what? What problem you want to solve, what you want to teach, what you're passionate about sharing. Who matters first. That is the primary objective, the primary thing that you want to know. Why? Because as an entrepreneur, I've heard it described that I love this definition. An entrepreneur is one who finds and solves a valuable problem. Why a valuable problem? How do you measure value? Because the money you receive as an entrepreneur is a receipt for the value that you have added to the marketplace. And in order for you to get paid, you have to find a valuable problem. But here's the problem. Not every problem is valuable, meaning not every problem pays the same when it's solved. One of the reasons why that entrepreneurs struggle or they get stuck is because they're solving a problem that the marketplace doesn't find valuable. And how do we know when it's a valuable problem or not? Is when we have to understand that value is in the eye of the beholder. Value is in the eye of the beholder. That means you are the worst person to judge whether what you offer is valuable or not. just because you're passionate about it, you want to make sure that it doesn't mean that the marketplace is passionate about paying you for it. So value is determined by the person with the money that they're going to exchange it for. And this is where people get things totally confused. So if the marketplace or the people, your prospects, your students, your customers are going to determine whether something is valuable or not, then you want to start with who they are, because again, value is dependent upon the individual. If you change who you are speaking to, you actually change the value of the problem that you solve. This is a really big a big idea that I realized is, like, when I was speaking to poor missionaries, or when I was speaking to nonprofits, and when I was speaking to faith-based nonprofits and helping them to understand how to do digital marketing online, I realized that there's a lot of nonprofits that are not interested in growing a following online, or leveraging these digital media to be able to reach their target audience and to impact people with their message. And there's a small segment that were extremely excited and really wanted to know. And then I realized that it's best to go where my gifts are celebrated, not just where my gifts are tolerated. And I realized that if I would simply just switch the who from nonprofits to speakers, authors, coaches, then, like, as I start sharing with them some of my journey, I was attending a best-selling book conference in order to get my #1 bestseller in business consulting. I want to mentor, now what do I do? And this book teaches people how to meet master mentors, how to maximize their mentorships, and master any skill in half the time. But as I was attending this, there was a conference for best-selling book authors, and I was there and I was sharing with people some of my experience or just some of the stories. And I was sharing how I've been fascinated with digital marketing since I was 12 years old. It's always been of interest to me, and I've been an entrepreneur since I was 10. And I'm sharing some of these stories, and people are like, what? What got you so interested in digital marketing when you were 12? When I was 12, I was out playing football and soccer. I was playing basketball. I was doing all these things. But, like, you're over here studying about digital marketing. And I was like, oh yeah, I signed up for my first newsletter and for Smart Passive Income by Pat Flynn, and I just love the stuff that he was sharing on digital marketing. And they're like, wow, this is so fascinating. And I was like, well, I guess, like, my mom was an entrepreneur, and she liked. Like, I grew up with her going to thrift stores, buying something for 50 cents, and saying, I'm going to sell this on eBay and she'll get $50 out of it. So I'm like, oh, it just makes sense. You buy something for less, you sell it for more. That's just how things work, right? I guess not. That's not everybody was raised that way. But as I'm telling the story, I realized that the people I'm speaking to, which are authors and coaches and speakers, they're like, this is so fascinating. This is so interesting. Where I'm like, I never got that kind of response from speaking to nonprofits as I did to speaking to speakers. And I'm like, that's really interesting. And I've been a professional speaker for the last 10 years. I got paid for my first speech when I was 17, and by the time I was 18, I've already spoken on all of the West Coast, Washington, Oregon, California, in my travels. Before I even finished high school, I was being invited to speak in different locations. And what I realized was that I had the wrong who. Simply by shifting the who from nonprofits to entrepreneurs, speakers, coaches, people who have a message, I realized, like, my whole obsession, if you will, for the last 10 years is how can I help people, help get their message to others that they are seeking to reach, how to craft a message in a way that can transform lives, in a way that can lead people to action. And I'm realizing that just by changing the who, then they're valuing things more. They're able to see light in the story. They're able, like, the perception of value skyrockets. Because here's the thing, value, what is value? Value is perception. It is perception, probably spelled perception wrong, but let's say like here's this box. So we're gonna put this box up here, and in this box, what we'll do is I'm gonna put the letter A, and I'm gonna put the letter Z. So as we have the letter A and Z, so if there's any like sometimes like if I'm spelling and the letter's like missing, we're just gonna borrow that letter from this box and we're gonna put it in there. All right, sound good? If there's something there's a letter that doesn't need to be there, we're gonna take that letter out and we're gonna put it right here in this box. Okay, so you could just fill in the blank if anything is missing. So value equals perception, but perception is in the mind. This is the eye of the beholder. So the who determines the value, and the value determines the price that you could charge, the price that the market is willing to pay you. So one of the worst things you could do is go through, create an entire product or entire book. I mean, oh, it's so sad how many people go through the effort and the energy to publish a book, but they didn't start with the who, they started with the what. Oh, no. And because of that, you know what happens when they got this big launch and they're so excited to get their message to the world? Crickets. Nobody buys. In fact, in Barnes & Noble, majority of those books have not sold over 2,000 copies. I mean, the vast majority of books, they don't sell, let alone get to bestseller. So what you can do to avoid it, to make sure that you are not creating a course that nobody wants, creating a coaching program that no one's interested in, or writing an entire book that nobody wants to listen to but you and your mother, then it is by starting with who is going to listen to it. Who do you really want to serve? And what I would introduce to you is finding your dream who. This is your dream customer, your dream client, like the ideal client, the absolute, the one person that would be a dream to work with. Like it would just be so exciting if you could just work with a bunch of these individuals that you could light you up in the morning. It could get you excited to show up for work, and that you could attract, and that your background strategically that your background is positioned specifically to be able to serve that group of people. Your past, your experiences, your pains, your stories makes you uniquely fitted to be assigned to serve a certain type of person. And finding your dream who is a really key part of that. In fact, finding your dream who could be the difference of loving what you do or absolutely hating and dreading going to work every day, where you treat out a 9-to-5 that you're not really liking, and you want the freedom to be able to be your own boss, work in a business, and now you're an entrepreneur. But here's a problem. You just found yourself a high-paying job. Now you found another thing that you dread, all because you chose a who that is not fulfilling to you. And I was listening to Russell Brunson. He had a very interesting story. Russell Brunson is the co-founder and CEO of ClickFunnels, who's built $1 billion brand. He's making over $300 million a year. And he was explaining how there was a time in his business that he was going after money. And because he was doing who would pay him, that's what he would look for. He got paid quite a bit, and he ended up building a business that he hated serving the clients that he chose. Like, it was such a drain. They were paying him. He was able to make a decent money, but it wasn't sustainable. It was a nightmare. You know, the type of nightmare that you never wake up out of? It's like when the nightmare doesn't end, you realize, like, oh, pinch me. I'm not dreaming. This is a life that he built. And it was all because of who he chose to serve. And when he began to realize this concept, when you can choose a person that can light you up, that you're uniquely equipped for, that makes so much sense, that you resonate with, that is passionate about paying you, then what he ended up having to do is he had to start over. He had to turn that business over. I don't know what happened, but he started with a business doing what he absolutely loves. and he's excited and more energetic than ever before. And he's been able to build a following of over 100,000 paying entrepreneurs using his software, ClickFunnels. So, and I'm one of them. So what I share with you is like the business, the who that you're serving, knowing that person is going to be the difference between the business of your dreams or the business of your nightmare, and a nightmare that you don't wake up out of. So this is understanding the dream who is extremely important. And so many times people will choose individuals, they will take their limitations and their lack, and based on their limitations, they will pick someone who they think that would be interested in coming. But it can be the difference between choosing people who are this is what I realized too. Another big mistake that entrepreneurs make is they think that in their business, what their goal is to take someone who is failing. And in the three main markets, there's health, there's wealth, and there's relationships. These are like the three areas people have the biggest problems with, right? Value is solving problems. So in health, wealth, and relationships, and they think that the goal is to find someone who is failing, who is struggling, who things are not working, and help them to become succeeding, help them to succeed and to win. But the challenge with that is the distance. People who identify with failure, people who do not value success, and some people value failure. And if you're targeting people who do not value success, and that could be success in their relationships, in their family, success in their health, success in their finances, success in their business. If they believe that success is something that is going to ruin their life, it's going to ruin their family, ruin their relationships, then they're going to sabotage their success every time. And what does that mean for you? Because as a business owner, what you're doing, especially as a speaker, as an author, as a coach, what you're doing is you're helping them to find, think of it like you have a problem. Here they are, they are starting at the beginning. This is the gap between where they are and where they want to be. This is the pain of their present. This is the possibilities of their future. And you are able to share with them, your job is to close the gap. And that is the transformation. In speaking and authorship and coaching, you're not selling information. You're selling a transformation. It's the transformation from getting from point A to point B. This is where value is found, because information does not equal transformation. People make a terrible mistake. They think that oh, it's like, I don't want to give away my close guarded secrets, or it's like this information, they're afraid to share information. But the reality is information alone doesn't transform people. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge is potential power. It becomes power when you apply it. Like manner, information plus implementation becomes transformation. It's not until that information becomes implementation, then you receive the transformation, and that's where value is. The value is not in the information alone. The value is in the implementation that brings the transformation. So for you, what this means for you is that the transformation that you're able to get someone, that's how you want to think through. If you're choosing a product or a business, or you're seeing how you can solve people at a very high level, then you want to look at what is the transformation. An offer is literally, a product is not the product. The product is the transformation that you're able to get. I'll give you an example. So people think they go into the hardware store, and let's say I want to drill a hole in my wall. What I'm looking for is not a drill. I'm not going into the hardware store to buy a drill. I don't need to know about the battery life and the lights that are on it. I don't need to know about the weights and the material. Like, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm not going to buy a drill. I'm going to buy a hole. I want a hole in my wall, and the drill is not the end. It's a means to the end. Does that make sense? The drill is the vehicle to be able to create the transformation, and that transformation is, I want a hole in my wall. So that's what people are buying. And as communicators, as salespeople, as people who want to serve others, then we have to know the difference. We have to understand what that looks like. And so why I'm saying this is because the transformation you're able to deliver is more or less valuable depending on who you're speaking to. Because not everyone wants the transformation that you have. And there is what I was sharing is that some people are stuck where they are, and they will continue to be stuck. For instance, it's like teaching financial literacy to broke folk who believe that wealth is wickedness, poverty is piety, business is bad. Like, that's not a good target audience. It's like, just because they need the help doesn't mean that they actually want it. And the thing about business is that you can't sell people what they need. You have to sell them what they want. People will only buy what they desire, what they want to buy. And this transformation that you're able to help someone to get, this will help to understand some people who think that, like, wealth is the worst thing that they could do, who think that wealth is going to destroy their life, wealth is a curse. It's like, for you to take them from where they are to where they could be, the distance is going to be so huge. So, like, choosing your who and choosing very strategically who you're able to serve, who you want to serve, who you're capable and best fit to serve, is going to be the difference between whether you are taking your students and you have to drag them up the hill of achievement, and you're dragging them and kicking and screaming, and they're just doing, clawing and everything that they can to stay where they are, and you got to club them over the head just to get them, drag them to the finish line. Or if you are able to take someone who's excited about the transformation, who's a self-starter, who values success, and they're going to run with you and they're going to sprint to the finish line. And as you're able to run and cross together, you're able to go so much further faster. That's the difference. And the quality of who you're serving, it all has, the quality of your business comes down to the quality of who you chose to serve. Because the truth is, anything that is for everyone is also for no one. Just because your offer, just because your solution can help everyone, does not mean that you're capable of marketing to everyone. Because marketing requires a messaging, requires like ads, requires market share. You don't have the time, the resources, the team, the education, the content creation team. You don't have those unlimited resources to market to every person on the planet who could benefit from what you have. So instead, find I like the way that Jesus put it in Acts chapter 1 and verse 8. Jesus was saying that it says, "But ye shall receive power after that the Holy Ghost is come upon you, and ye shall be witnesses unto me, both in," here it is, "Jerusalem, and in all Judea, and in Samaria, and unto the uttermost parts of the earth." So what you see here, Jesus is giving what I like to call this land and expand concepts. When what you're doing is you have a target audience. People often ask, like, "Hey, who's your target audience?" They're like, target? I don't have a target. My target is everyone. It's like, that's not a target. Because if you're trying to shoot a target, fuzzy targets don't get hit. So if you're trying to say everyone, I assure you, you are never going to hit a target that you never define. So if you're struggling with sales, it's largely because, it could be because you have not put in the time, the energy, the effort necessary to be able to target and to attract your ideal customer, the person who would actually be ideal to see value in what you're offering. So Jesus says, look, begin in Jerusalem. Jerusalem is a city. This is like the capital of where his people were, of the Jews. And so he's saying, begin in Jerusalem. That's a very narrow niche. It's like, pick your dot. Dean Graziazzo likes to use this example of having a dot. And you want to choose, who is your dot? Who is that dot, the target that you're going to do? And then once you've been able to saturate, once you land in that niche, that specific target, bullseye, then you expand to Jerusalem. I mean, go from Jerusalem to Judea. What is Judea? Judea is a city, is the country. Jerusalem is one city, and Judea is the country that Jerusalem is the capital of. And then once you've been able to expand and saturate that, and you've landed in Jerusalem, you've expanded to Judea, now it's time to expand your borders, to make your tents, your stakes out further. Now you're going to go to Samaria, which Samaria is very similar to Judea, is that they were the northern tribes of Israel, the 10 tribes of Israel that were scattered throughout all the Samaria, the Assyrian countries, and they mingled with some of the other nations, but they're still they're like children of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob. So then go out to Samaria, and then as you land there, you expand to the uttermost parts of the world. Now you're starting to get much larger market share. So what this looks like for you is like if you want to help entrepreneurs, you don't want to just say I help entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs is not a target audience. Entrepreneurs is not an avatar. Entrepreneurs is a massive market of all sorts of people. Like, what specific types of entrepreneurs you want to serve? What business models? What kind of identity does that entrepreneur have? Are they speakers? Are they brick and mortar businesses? If so, are they dentists? Are they chiropractors? Are there, like, I was sitting having lunch with in Myron Golden's inner circle, and I was sitting with someone who's built an 8-figure agency empire just teaching digital marketing to chiropractors, and that's all that he does. It's one business model, and he finds that and built an entire business on it. Are you teaching network marketers? Are you teaching affiliate marketing? Are you teaching people who want to use like merch and brand and t-shirt marketing? Like, who specifically are you serving? Because anything that is for everyone is also for no one. You have to choose and land. Pick a category, become the category king or queen in that niche, and once you land there, then you can expand your territory, expand your assignment. But it's like Luke 16:10. My favorite verse in all the Bible. He that is faithful in that which is least will be faithful also much. He that is unjust in that which is least will be unjust also in much. Did you know that when you are speaking to startups, you're actually repelling high-level entrepreneurs? When you're speaking to high-level entrepreneurs, you're repelling startups. Or it's like the very act of speaking, you can't avoid it. Speaking is attracting some and repelling others. And if you're like, it's fascinating to me how many people are speaking the stuff that they're most passionate about, that excites them the most, and spends little to no time actually studying the market, studying the people that they want to reach. And the only thing that they talk about are things that excites them, and then they wonder why they're the only person in the room. And they wonder why aren't other people coming to listen and hear and share? And it's because you're speaking of, like, the strategy to start what you're passionate about, what you're passionate about selling, what you're passionate about solving. It would work if the marketplace was only filled with people that represent a mere reflection of you, but they're not. So we have to flip the script, and instead of start with what we want to talk about, start with who do we want to serve. When you find out who you want to serve, then you could start identifying what are their problems, what are their pains, what are their desires that they already have. What is excruciating to them? What keeps them up at night? And as you're able to see what are the problems that your ideal audience has, then you can start to attract them. And as you land in a smaller category, then you could expand to a larger one, just like Jesus said in Acts chapter 1:8. So with this being said, it's so vital that we get clarity on that message, that who. And I was talking about earlier in the beginning of the video. I said, what does Jesus, whale harpoons, and market research have in common? And I'm going to share it with this. Some of you were wondering. It's like, this is great, but what about those whale harpoons? I want to know about that. So in Matthew chapter 4, verse 19, famous verse, Jesus said to his disciples, who he found, they were fishing on the boat, they were working in the family business, so they were many of the disciples of Jesus, by the way, were businessmen, and they had family business. They were entrepreneurs, and when they came to Christ, they were able to leave their business to their employees. And as these disciples, they were fishing in their family business, Jesus was like, come, follow me. And he says, I will make you fishers of men. Huh, interesting. So Jesus is actually using business terminology to explain how to share their message with the men that they were called to serve. So are there lessons that we can learn in fishing that will teach us how to be able to get a message to the masses? Absolutely. In fact, in marketing, there's a common understanding that of these things that are called hooks. And as you have a hook, these hooks are what will attract, like in fishing, you have hooks, and really your hook determines the fish that you catch. And like manner, in marketing and messaging, the hooks that you throw out into the marketplace will determine the fish or the types of people who comes to you. So when you change your hook, you'll change your audience. Your message determines your audience. It's a principle that I teach in my book, I Want to Mentor, Now What Do I Do? Is that if you want to change your audience, or if you want to attract the audience, then start with a hook. The hook is what will capture the attention of the person that you want to serve. If you want to, when you change your hook, you change your audience. When you upgrade your hook, you upgrade your audience. So that is, if you want to know about those principles, you can grab a copy of my book at iwanttomentorbook.com. But I don't spend a lot of time fishing, but there are a few things that I'm aware of. Like if I were to catch, if I wanted to catch some salmon, then the type of hook that I'm going to use is going to look a lot like a feather. And I'm going to start doing fly fishing. Fly fishing is known for catching salmon and trout, especially. So if I wanted to catch lobsters, which I don't, those are disgusting, and if I wanted to catch lobsters, then they're going to use, they use cages, and that's what they will catch lobsters in. The very hooks that you use, or the mechanism you use to catch the fish, is going to attract a certain type of fish, and it's going to repel another type of fish. So if I were going to catch sharks, or people who want to attract sharks, they use what's called some bait chum, and the chum is basically chunks of bloody fish they throw into the water, and it attracts these predators, especially sharks, that come up and they see all the blood and they want to eat all the fish bones and all that stuff. And that is a different type of bait. Now, people who go whale hunting, which, like I said, wouldn't recommend it, pretty sure it's illegal in most countries, but they use a harpoon, which is like a spear gun, that they look for the whale, and they use it to go pierce the whale. You're not going to use a little feather on a fishing rod to go catch a massive whale if that's what you're hunting or looking for. And like manner, you're not going to take a whale harpoon and point it at a little guppy in a pond and try to catch guppies with harpoons. It doesn't work that way. So the reason why I'm saying this is because anyone who has a message that is for everybody also has a message that is for nobody. It matters, your message matters, because your message determines your audience. You have to start with the who. You are going to repel people by your message, and you will attract people by your message. Like, for instance, if you, like, when you are starting a business, when you're choosing your offer, it's so important that when you're choosing your who, you have to find people that are that they have to be willing to pay. Willing to pay means that they see value in what you provide. They see value in the solution, the transformation that you desire to bring, and that they're like, I'm willing to pay. I want to do that. But on top of that, you have to choose people that not only are willing, but that they are able to pay. This means that they have the purchasing power to purchase what you want to offer at the price that you want to offer. So, for instance, if I want to sell things to children, then then children could be really excited about this program for entrepreneurs. Let's say I'm going to teach entrepreneurs to youth. Then they could be willing to pay, but they don't have the purchasing power most of the time to pay for those things. So instead of targeting the youth in your messaging, you would have to then target who is willing and able to purchase programs for entrepreneurs and youth, and you could go to the parents. The parents could both be willing and able to pay. So I've seen people who have been very successful. Caleb Maddox, for instance, became a millionaire when he was 16 years old, and he created a book reading club where he was encouraging youth to read books that can transform their lives. And what he would do is he started a webinar that was designed for the children and the parents. And by marketing to them both, then he was able to sign them up into a subscription where they read books together and they learn and they grow together. So, and Caleb, I'm going to have him to speak on our podcast. We're going to interview him on some of his story. It's an amazing story. So, and then others, I met a guy when I went to an influencer summit with Brendon Burchard, where there's hundreds of influencers, authors, coaches, speakers who are all there in the room, and they're learning how to be able to build a business online, getting paid a premium for their advice. And I met this guy who was from Australia, and he was launching this school for entrepreneurs, youth, teen entrepreneurs. I'm like, that's pretty cool. And he was saying, like, you do not target the children, you have to target the parents. And then the next week or two, he's up there having six-figure launches. I'm like, more power to him. But you have to find people that are both willing and able. So like when you're choosing an offer, it's really important that you consider this, because let's say like someone gets a bright idea. It's like, oh, I got a great business plan. What if I help people who are unemployed? Unemployment's a huge issue in this recession, and what if I create an offer where I help people who are unemployed to find their dream jobs or to find the employment? How great would that be? It's like, well, that makes sense. Well, let's take it through the framework. Would people who are unemployed be willing to pay for finding their dream job? Most likely, that sounds like a high willingness, but if they're unemployed, would they have the purchasing power, or would they be able to pay for that type of service at the price you'd want to charge? And they're like, no. So that would be, let's scrap that idea. Don't do it. Like, you could do that for like a nonprofit, but in the beginning, start a for-profit. Start a for-profit that you're able to use, because here's the reality, friends. Nonprofit is not in the Bible. Nonprofit is not biblical. In fact, when you go to Matthew 25, very interesting. In Matthew 25, it talks about, this is my favorite parable that Jesus taught. He gives parable of the 10 talents, and he gives this talent of gold, which is like 78 pounds of gold that he's giving to these 3 servants. To one, he gives 5 talents, to another, he gives 2 talents, and to the last servant, he gives 1 talent. And the Lord, he goes away on a far journey, and they are expected to be stewards of this talents, of this gold. And when he comes back, the one who was given 5 talents he multiplied it. He put it to the exchangers. He exchanged the talents, he exchanged the money, and he was able to multiply the money because he used the money, because the law of circulation shows that money increases as it's circulated. It's meant to be transferred. And so he's like, well done, thou good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a few. Remember, like we were talking about, being faithful over the few? I'm going to trust you now with 10 cities. And he gives him even more opportunity. And then he goes over to the one who was given 2 talents, and he says, where's my increase? What have you done? And he's like, Master, I took the 2 talents and I made it into 4 talents. He was able to double it. And he's like, well done, thou good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a few. I'm going to give you rulership over cities. So he's also increased. But the last guy was fearful. The last guy was afraid. And what he did is he took his Lord's money and he buried it in the earth. And he said put it in a napkin, he buried it in the earth, and he was afraid. And he was afraid to exchange. He was afraid to trade and to sell, to change. And as a result, he did not increase. He didn't multiply. He didn't improve the money that God entrusted to him, or the Lord entrusted to him. And what the Lord ended up saying is, and it's so fascinating, what the Lord said in Matthew 25, verse 27. It says, "Thou oughtest therefore to have put my money to the exchangers, and then at my coming I should have received mine own with usury." So we see here in verse 27 the law of exchange. The law of exchange states that as you exchange, wealth is created for both parties. That literally exchange, sales, trading, that is how wealth is generated. By selling, you're actually creating more value than what existed before. How do we know that? Because I'll give you an example. Let's say that I have this water bottle. Okay, this is glass, but let's say it was plastic. Let's say I have this plastic water bottle and I wanted to sell this to you. But actually, can I get a volunteer? Would it be all right if I have a volunteer to come up here and do a demonstration with me? Go for it. You can come up. Thank you. So I'm going to give a demonstration for, I'm going to have my lovely assistant come up here. And I want to ask, are we set up for the handheld microphone by any chance? So here we have this. What's your name?
Deborah.
Deborah. Okay. Thank you for coming up here. And I'm going to say that I have this water bottle, okay? Let's say that you want my water bottle, and I am going to provide this for you, but I'm going to sell it to you for $1. And if you're willing, like, would you be willing to buy the water bottle for $1?
Sure will.
You sure will. Oh, okay. And you got some dollar, cash in hands, ready. Okay, great. Well, I see this is going to be $1, but when I exchange this, like, go ahead and switch me. Here, I'll take your $1, and you have the water bottle. We just exchanged my value for your value, but what you're saying here is that not only, like, if that's a plastic water bottle, did that cost me $1? Did that cost me $1 to produce? No, that's probably going to be like point something cents, and it's like a fraction of $1. But you perceived greater value. What you just did by exchanging with me your $1 for my water bottle is you communicated that my water bottle is worth more value to you than the $1. And this is $5. Thank you. It's like
Nice and crispy too.
Yes, it is. You have communicated that my water bottle is worth more value to you than the $1 is in your pocket. And what I've communicated is that your $5 is worth more value to me than the water bottle in my inventory. So we've both walked away with more value or less value from the exchange. More value. So sales creates value out of thin air. Sales creates value that didn't exist before. We are now richer by the exchange than we were before. Okay. Isn't that powerful?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome to sit down. Thank you for the for being involving in the demonstration. So I want you to see that exchange is a law of wealth creation that God created. That's why in Matthew 25:27 he says, "You should have put my money to the exchangers." And in Luke's version he says, "You should have sent it to the traders." Trading, it like you getting paid for what you do, you getting paid for your service, for your offer, for your value, is God's reward program for the good that you do in the world. I believe business is a good idea because business is a God idea. But Jesus doesn't start here. It doesn't stop here. He says in verse 28, "Take therefore the talent from him," the 1 talent, "and give it unto him that hath 10 talents. What? "And for unto every one that hath shall be given, and he shall have an abundance. But from him that hath not shall be taken away even that which he hath." It's like, whoa, wait a second. Hold on. I grew up watching television, and Robin Hood taught me that you're supposed to take from the rich and give to the poor. But Jesus is saying, no, it's taken from the poor and giving to the rich. That sounds backwards. Well, that's because Hollywood is programming the masses to think opposite of what the Bible says. In fact, the reason why, the fact that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer is actually a biblical principle. It's because money flows to where it's used, and resources are attracted to multipliers. Those who will put to use, who will exchange, and who will multiply are the ones who receive abundance. Whether it's a talent of speech, if you have a talent of communication and speaking, then by you creating content online, whether it's YouTube, podcast, Instagram, you creating content, multiplying your message, you have an abundance of knowledge, of understanding, of following, of influence, of people that you can serve, people who walk up to you and they say, your message has changed my life. Thank you so much for sharing. And it's always a blessing when I'm able to meet someone at an event and they're like, wow, you're here. I'm so, first thing that they say is, wow, you're taller than I expected. And I'm like, yeah, well, you don't really see that on camera, but I happen to be 6'2". And then the next thing they say is like, thank you so much for the videos. They've really impacted my life. And I watch them with friends, family, whoever, and it's so nice. But that is a result of creating content for the last 10 years, since 2012. Creating weekly content consistently. When you multiply your talent, when you use your talents, talents used are talents multiplied. Resources used are resources multiplied. So when we don't use, when we don't sell, when we're afraid, when we do good and we're like, no, I don't want to take any money, no thank you. It's like, I just want to do good. It's like we think that we are representing God more by not accepting payment, but that is not the plan that Jesus said. In fact, this nonprofit plan, or thinking that somehow profit is not godly, or profit is not spiritual, is like, notice what Jesus says in verse 30 is like, wow, it's like, this is here. And it says, and cast ye the unprofitable servant, the what kind of servant? The unprofitable servant into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So the unprofitable servant was called the wicked and slothful servant. I'm telling you, non-profit is not found in the Bible. And you can see this all throughout the scriptures in various places. In fact, Proverbs 11 and verse 26, the wisest and wealthiest man that ever lived, King Solomon, he flat out says in Proverbs 11:26 that there is, if you have something of value, if you have a solution that can transform someone's life and can serve them, you have a moral obligation to sell that solution to as many people as you possibly can. In verse 26, he that withholdeth the corn or the bread, the people shall curse him. But blessing shall be upon the head of him that selleth it. It doesn't say give it away, it says selling it. So when you have something good, you have a moral obligation to sell it to as many people as you possibly can. And why? Because selling or exchange creates wealth for both parties. And that's one of the ways that God has established to be able to create better good for the world. Better good for others, better good for you, for everyone that you're coming involved with. In a free market. So we share that because when you're looking at who is willing and able to pay, you want to find people that are not just willing to pay, but they are able to pay. And then on the other side, you have people who start with what they're passionate about. They start with what they want to talk about, not who. They're not even thinking about who is actually going to pay them, because you got to think, like, have you ever noticed? Have you ever thought about how everything that you possibly want, like all the resources, all the financial resources you've ever desired, are right now in somebody else's pocket? And all you have to do is love them enough to get to know who they are, what their problem is, and just create a transformation or a solution. Find a solution to a problem that matters to them, and sell it to them. And when you sell, you will be able to have all the money that you would possibly desire to be able to get your message and mission out. I mean, I have done service for people without money, and I've done service with money, and I'm telling you, it is so much easier. It is so much more effective to serve people with money than without. So I believe that that wealth was created for God's people. And God's people, like, abundance is your birthright, and wealth is created so that you can do more good for others, do more good for God, do more good for others, for your family, provide for the needs and wants of others. And it's because of having a business. It's because of the income of being able to sell for other people that allows me to provide for a team and to be able to provide for other families and other people. Having a family-based business and also being able to hire other people to be able to work. It's like I believe the desire to that is often said is like, well, I just want enough to be comfortable, or it's like I don't want too much. It's like, when is too much to like start getting greedy, or it's like it's like I don't want to have too much. It's like the desire to just make enough money so you can be comfortable, I believe, is one of the most selfish desires that anybody can have, because I don't want to make enough just for myself and for me to be comfortable. I want to make more than enough so I could provide for the families and provide for others, to employ others, to provide opportunities, and to provide education and training and equipment and employment to other people. I want to make more than enough so I can give more to the causes that I care about and contribute to the things that matter most to me. I don't want enough so I can be comfortable. It's like I want enough to be able to provide for the wants and needs of others. I believe that's one of the reasons why gardening is such a powerful tool that when God created Adam and Eve, he put man into a garden, and he put man in, he gave them a family business. And in that garden, they are to grow. And if you've ever had a garden, a lot of times you grow so much that it's more than enough for your family. There's more than enough. So you could either sell it in the farmer's market, you could share it with friends. It's just like that principle of abundance, the harvest. God desires his people to live in an environment of abundance, not scarcity. And even as I say this, there are some people who are hearing this and they're like, oh, this is terrible. Like no. And they get all freaked out, and then they're going to tune out. They're going to click away. They're going to be upset, and that's fine. I mean, that's okay. Like I can't. There's going to be other people who can serve them best, but there's going to be other people who are hearing this and they're like, yeah, that's exactly how I felt. That's exactly what I was thinking. Yes, I agree. That's what I believe. And it's like, I rarely hear other people saying that, or maybe you never heard people say that. Like putting into words the beliefs that your ideal audience already has, like that helps you to be able to serve them in a way that other people can't serve them. And that's what you want to do for them. And one of the reasons, if this is resonating with you, it's because you're probably the type of person I'm uniquely equipped to fit and uniquely equipped to help. And not everyone is. But I know my dream who well enough to understand what are the thoughts, the concerns, and the doubts, and the perplexities, or the fears, and just being able to understand that helps me to be able to unlock those and create breakthroughs for people that would otherwise be more difficult from others in the marketplace. And so what I'm sharing is that by you speaking to people, there's some people who are able to pay for what you have to offer, but they're not willing. They're not interested, because the entrepreneur started with what you're passionate about, but they're not passionate about paying, so they're not willing to pay. So the very act, it's like what I really want to get in is that when you are trying to speak to everyone, if you're speaking to people, or trying to speak to everyone, you're actually repelling some. Like, I'll give you an example. If I were to, many of you are adults. If you're an adult and I spoke to you like a child, like a toddler, and I started speaking to you as a toddler, how long would you want to listen to me? How long would that conversation go? You're like, I know you're not talking to me because I am not a toddler. And it's like, I don't let anyone speak to me like I'm a child, or like something in between where you're just like, okay, Enoch's out of his mind and clearly he's not talking to me, and you're going to go somewhere else because you're an adult and I'm speaking to you like a child. In like manner, when you are choosing your who, if you're trying to speak to everyone, if you're like trying to attract people who are not just willing but able to pay, like let's say high-level entrepreneurs, or let's say business owners, or let's say professionals, or people who have larger discretionary income that they're able to provide for some of these solutions, and you're speaking to an entrepreneur who's further down the line, and you're speaking to them like they're a startup, you're actually going to be repelling high-level entrepreneurs by speaking to them like they're just getting started. And all the examples and the stories that you're using in your messaging is screaming that I only help startups. I have nothing for those who have who have more resources. You're literally repelling the wealthy when you're speaking to the poor. And when you're speaking to the wealthy, like the messaging, what attracts the wealthy repels the poor. It's that law of polarity. So like polarity is actually something that is important. In fact, I've heard it explained. Dean Grazioso, he's done over $1 billion in sales, and he defines marketing like this, and I like this definition. He says marketing is about attracting those who you want and repelling those who you don't. So it's just as important for you to know who you're not serving as much as it is for you to know who you are serving. And this can be really hard, especially for people who want to serve people. They think they could serve people better by trying to reach everyone, but what that's actually creating is nobody's going to hear your message, or few people are going to respond, and you're limiting tremendously because you're trying not to offend so many people. But strategically offending the right type of person is a good thing. And what I mean, and I'll show you in the scriptures how that could be the case, and how Jesus strategically offended the people who he was not uniquely equipped to serve. That they were not ready to receive his message yet. And but what this does is it allows you to be able to clean your email list, or to be able to clean your audience, or like taking people that are not ready, and it's okay. So then you are able to draw those closer who are the ideal, who are the perfect match for what your unique talents and abilities and skills are, to be able to help get them a transformation that they value. And those who are going to be the greatest complainers, who are going to pick faults with everything that you do, who, when you're trying to like cater to both parties and just like come along and get along and just try to please people, everyone involved, then what that does is that you're starting to attract some people that are like very unruly, and some of the greatest strain on your customer support, some of the greatest strain on, and really they're not going to put in the work. They either won't buy your products, or when they do, they're going to complain, leave bad reviews, because they weren't even the right person to begin with. It's like sometimes we get greedy, and we and it has like a outer shell of service and kindness and generosity. It's like, no, we don't want to turn anyone away, but by actually having that, we are literally we are repelling the people who we could serve the most. And we're attracting people who are not the best fit. And you might be like, wow, didn't Jesus come for everyone? Or this sounds kind of conflicting. But no, Jesus did not come for everyone. In fact, Jesus said, I come not for the righteous, but to call sinners to repentance. He was saying that they that are whole need not a physician, but they that are sick. And so Christ came to seek and save that which is lost. Jesus knew his dot. He was looking for those who were looking for him, who were looking for another way, who were ready, open, willing, and they were willing, and they were able to make that change. But to the people that were not a good fit, in fact, Jesus said in John 6:6, John chapter 6, verse 66, it's easy to remember 666, but it's actually not in verse 66, it's in verse 60. Jesus goes through and he's talking to this large audience, and he's sharing how he's speaking to his 70 disciples, right? These are 70 disciples who his 12 trained, and they went out to all these cities going 2 by 2 in Luke 10:1, and they were telling everybody that Jesus is coming. And so they were his evangelists, they were his missionaries and his representatives. And then now he has them all together, and Jesus says, unless you eat of my flesh and drink of my blood, you have no eternal life in you. And the 70 are like, what did he just say? It's like, is this cannibalism? What's going on here? And they're getting really they're getting concerned about this. In fact, verse 60, it says, many of his disciples, the 70 disciples, when they had heard this, said, this is a hard saying. Who can hear it? They were offended. Did Jesus know that they would be offended? Yes, he did. So did he speak anyways? Yes, he did, because he understood the importance of strategically offending at the right time. And the next verse, when Jesus knew in himself that his disciples murmured of it, he said unto them, doth this offend you? And he knew it offended them. And then he elaborates, and he says again that the words that he says, they are spirit and they are life. And in verse 666, it says that from that time, many of his disciples went back and walked no more with him. Did Jesus know that he was going to clean out his list, or did he know he was going to clean out the audience by making those strong statements? Yes, but he didn't pull back because he didn't prevent from being polarizing because he was afraid to offend some people. Those 70 may not have had the right heart, or weren't falling for the right reasons, or and this is a time where many of them thought that Jesus was like this earthly Messiah that was going to come out and they were going to destroy the Romans and make Jerusalem the capital of the earthly world, and not the new earth, but the one that now is. And they misunderstood. They were following him because they wanted to be among the best. And so Jesus was offending them in the right manner. In fact, I find it so interesting how Jesus then turns to Peter and says, "Peter, will you also go away?" And Simon Peter answered him and he said, "Lord, to whom shall I go? You're the only ones with the words of eternal life." So what did that do? That repelled, it attracted people like Peter and his 12, and they were even more closely united by that polarizing statement, and they repelled the people that weren't a good fit. Even at the cross, the death of Jesus, that was an offense to many of his followers who thought Jesus would be this earthly kingdom or earthly ruler. And so it was a turning point. There was a lot of followers, and then it shrunk, and people were like, "Oh no!" Where the disciples were even hiding it in the upper room, and for fear of the Jews, and they were where that was an offense. It purged some of the people who followed for the wrong reasons, and then he was able to share and get and resurrect and build massive momentum when the gospel was carried to the world. So what we see here is that Jesus said, "Think not that I come to bring peace, but a sword. I come not to bring peace, but a sword, to put at variance the father-in-law and the mother-in-law. They of their own household will be their own enemies." And I'm not saying that just that Jesus was like a divisive person who's constantly creating controversy, but he wasn't afraid of controversy. He knew that controversy, polarizing, being polarizing, not being boring. People will not forgive you if you're boring. If you're trying to appease all the people involved, you're not going to be able to get people's attention who you're able to uniquely serve. But Jesus wasn't afraid to share hard things, even if other people didn't agree with them. So I say that because sometimes by speaking to the wealthy, always by speaking to the wealthy, you will be repelling the poor. By speaking to the poor startups, you will be repelling the wealthy and the higher level entrepreneurs who are willing and able to pay. So this is what we're looking at is what can we learn from Whale Harpoons and from Jesus about making sales online. And it boils down to know who you want to serve, who are you uniquely able to help, because your hook, your bait, your message determines your audience. The hook determines the haul. What is the fish that you're going to catch? When you change your bait, you'll change the fish. And if you want to be very, very specific on who is your dream who, your target audience, some people call it an avatar or a marketing persona, who is the person that uniquely represents the type of people that you can serve, and go speak to them. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to attract other people on the fringes. Even though Jesus said, "Go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel," he was choosing that specific target audience. There were still other people who came, like the woman of Samaria, the woman at the well, and she's like, "How is it you, being a Jew, ask a drink of me, a woman of Samaria? The Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans." And Jesus was able to speak to her. Or the fair Phoenician woman who was like, "But Master, even the dogs eat the crumbs after the master's table." And it's like, "Heal my daughter." And he was able to help. Her faith was heard. And so Christ, what I'm saying is that even when you choose a target audience, you will attract some fringes. And it's okay. That doesn't mean you don't serve them. You can serve people with your free content and with different levels. But the target audience, the person you want to speak to, the person that you're individually interacting, you're creating all your offers, your courses, your signature speeches. When you're speaking to an audience, there's going to be a segment of that audience that's really going to resonate with your brand, your message, what you stand for, your values, your method and delivery. And speak to that individual in all that you do, and you are going to find that there's going to be much greater success, a lot less friction in growing your business, serving the people you're called to do, and ultimately fulfilling your God-given assignment in the marketplace. And I want nothing more than to see you thrive. I don't want to just see you survive in this ever-changing world. I want to see you thrive. So if you like this training and you want to learn more about your message, you want to learn more about how you can learn these skills and to produce more sales and to understand more of these financial laws, then I want to invite you to grab a free copy of my book, I Want to Mentor, Now What Do I Do? You can get this. I will cover the cost of the book. You just cover for shipping, and tell me where to send it, and I'd love to send it to you. All you got to do is go to the website, iwantamentorbook.com. There'll be a link in the description, iwantamentorbook.com. And in this book, this is helping authors, coaches, speakers, and other high-level entrepreneurs how that you could meet master mentors, that you could maximize your mentorships, whether it's a coaching program, a mastermind, a seminar, event that you attend, or even online video, how you can get the most out of that. People invest $30,000, $50,000 to be a part of these high-level mentorships, and it's like, and a lot of times they're not sure how to make sense of this, or how to remember how to take the information into implementation so they can receive the transformation. If you want to know the strategies to become a super student of successful people, based on biblical principles, grab a copy of the book, and this will also teach you how to master any skill in half the time, so that you can see the gap between where you are and where you want to be is the same gap of what you know now and what you don't know yet. And it is skills that is going to help bring that transformation around. The faster you learn, the more you earn. So this is a step-by-step guide that will help you to master these skills in half the time, so that you can serve the people and show up in the way that can really transform lives that you are called to serve. So thank you so much for watching, and if you like it, then hit like and share it with someone else. Invite them and let them know that this is available. And remember, friends, God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called.